So I am about to depart on a month-long road trip from Buffalo, New York to Newfoundland, Canada. It is 35 hours of driving one way, 3,000 kilometers. There's like a 16-hour ferry in there, and I'm gonna be camping the whole way. Let me tell you a little story on how a very indoorsy person became obsessed with the outdoors, trucks, and camping. I grew up in Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada, where the vast land and small population creates a playground for outdoor enthusiasts. Thing is, when I lived in Newfoundland, all I cared about was leaving and traveling through big cities like New York, Toronto, and London. I was the opposite of outdoorsy. We've been living in Buffalo, New York now for almost 7 years, and things have changed quite a bit. Back in 2019, Chris and I took our first remote helicopter trip from Buffalo to Newfoundland, and we found ourselves camping along the way for the first time. I absolutely hated not knowing what to do, and at the time, I decided I never want to do this again.
You don't want to do this again?
What are we going to do? How are we even going to contact anybody? Fast forward to 2020, during the pandemic lockdowns, I discovered a series called Across Baffin Island by YouTuber and adventurer Jim Baird. From there, I started following Justin Barber, an adventurer from my home in Newfoundland who takes on the harsh, remote climates of the island for 30 days, 60 days, and just did a full year in the bush. I stopped watching filmmaking content completely and exclusively started watching wilderness survival and bushcraft videos. I was an armchair outdoors person until I heard Justin Barber say something along the lines of, "You don't need to do 60 days in the wilderness. Just go out overnight or for the weekend and find the level of adventure that works for you." And that was like a light bulb moment. That is what it looks like when two noobs go camping for one night. We started taking on some helicopter camping trips, and while packing up Mozzie books to ship, I started watching Overlanding. And as I watched series after series, I realized, holy shit, I have a truck. I like camping. Could I do this? I bought Wayne in 2022 after an extensive search for a pickup truck for our renovation. There was a massive shortage at the time, and I had been looking and waiting for almost a year. Finally, we got a call from the dealership that a truck had just arrived. It was a 2022 Ford F-150 XLT with a 302A trim package, 3.5-liter EcoBoost engine, and it came with a tow package, leather seats, and moonroof, and Pro Power on board, which is a built-in generator. The only problem, it was silver, and I wanted black. So I bought the truck and had it immediately wrapped by our buddy Austin at Buffalo Skins, who we now refer to as our wrap guy. Holy oh my God! I wanted an F-150 not only because it's the most popular truck in America, making parts easy to find, but also because many contractors I know from home in Newfoundland, including both of my uncles who helped with our first renovation, drove one. It has a high payload capacity, which is perfect for hauling lumber and full-size sheet goods, exactly what we needed for our latest project. While I wanted to get into overlanding, I had to be realistic with myself. I bought this truck for the renovation, so I really needed to be strategic and build it out as a hybrid rig that could both camp and carry tools and building materials. I reached out to my friend Justin McBride, who helped me figure out some options for my build. And with his help, I connected with Go Fast Campers, who generously sent me one of their discontinued super light rooftop tents. Weighing in at only 80 pounds, this tent was super easy for both of us to lift, and it didn't take up too much weight in the back, allowing us to still haul heavy tools and wood below. We mounted that on top of a CBI bed rack, which we purchased as our base, and we went this route over a camper topper because we needed bed access for tools and wood. My friends over at Decked hooked us up with a drawer system for the back of the truck, and this actually might be my favorite part of the build because we can customize the configuration depending on if we're camping or working on our property. And last but not least, I wanted to give Rome Adventure Co. a huge shout out for sending us this 270-degree awning. We had all the gear, but we needed to make a few tweaks. First, the truck's stock tires weren't really working out for us, so we brought Wayne over to our friends at Scruggs, who helped us pick out all the right upgrades. We swapped our stock tires for a slightly larger and more aggressive Mickey Thompson Baja Boss all-terrain tire. And we also did some suspension upgrades, adding an Icon Dynamics front lift kit and rear shocks. The last thing that was left was to deal with my interior storage issue. My pain point right now in the back of my truck when we're camping is that things get piled on top of each other. So in order to get something out from the bottom, everything above has to come out. So I'm basically building 2 platforms in the back of the truck. One on the passenger side, and that is going to house the Dometic fridge. It's kind of going to go in long ways. The one on the driver's side is going to be a little bit higher than the one on the fridge side. And that is because I need space to put my camera bag underneath. This is my first time working with aluminum. This is going to be a whole new experience for me. What's 35 divided by 2? 17 and a half. Finding a home in the truck for all the things was absolutely essential. Oh, no problem. I built a platform base from aluminum and cut some scrap MDF for the tops.
Bang on?
Yeah, she bang on. Once everything was cut to size, we marked and drilled the mounting holes. We painted that MDF with bedliner paint. Well, it's definitely chunky, I'll tell you that much. And then we did a trial loadout to see if everything worked together. Since our last trip, we added the Dometic fridge, battery, and water jug to the setup, and so making sure all of that fits seamlessly was really important. Serendipitously, Gregory dropped this line of alpaca gear organization, so I purchased the basket, the tote, and a couple of gear pods. I'm planning on using this large one for kitchen goods, one for the Dometic faucet, and anything that goes with cleaning. And the third one I'm going to be using for my entire coffee setup so I can keep the morning ritual of having coffee and tea super easy to access and away from all of our normal foods. Now when it comes to actual food storage, I'm going to be using this Gregory tote behind the seat. Everything else is going to go in this short Sitio crate. This crate has a cutting board on top with dividers, and so this is just going to have granola bars, snacks, peanut butter, noodles, pasta. We're going to be using this like a pantry. Camping is the main attraction for me when it comes to overlanding, and it's one of the reasons why I kept my stock 20-inch rims and just got a slightly larger tire instead of, switching all that up to getting really big tires and really small wheels. Using the truck to take me to places that I can photograph and then being able to live out of that truck, allowing me to kind of access more remote areas, getting into places that normally, regular car can't go, but I'm less excited about like rock crawling and really hard trails. I'm more excited about those epic, views and locations. And I like going to a destination to cook a meal, to relax, and hopefully take some photos along the way. So this adventure is all about getting outside of my comfort zone, seeing if I can do the thing myself for the most part, exploring and trying to get my passion for photography back. I have never camped alone in my entire life. I never camped at all until like 4 years ago in 2019 when we flew the helicopter back to Newfoundland. That was my first time camping since I was a kid, backyard sleepovers and whatnot. I've also never done this much long driving before. Before it was time to go, there was a couple of things I had to do. First off, I'm making this into a whole series, which means I have to test my entire in-truck filming setup. I've got the Insta360 X3 on a sticky mount with a quick release right on my dash. Also looks very blown out, so I'm gonna have to work on getting the best settings. GoPro Hero 11 is what you're seeing right here. And that's just mounted to a RAM mount on my handle. So I wanna make sure that that also works, looks good. Next was making sure that all of my camping setup was going to work out. Now I did a shakedown trip last weekend. The rooftop tent works. But we are going to be doing a portion of this trip in a ground tent, and I really want to make sure that that ground tent is still in good quality and in good shape, and that the air mattress that we use in the roof tent is going to actually fit inside that ground tent. We haven't tried this air mattress in here yet, so hopefully it fits. I'm going to be tent camping for 3 nights in this, and it is muggy. Probably a pretty good example of what it's going to be like. So one of tonight's shakedown items is not only to make sure that the tent is still in good working condition, that the poles and everything work, that the elastics are good, it looks great. But we also added this 1 gallon propane tank for cooking to the truck. We haven't used it yet. I leave in 1 week. Cheers. We're gonna do a little nachos in this pan. Oh my God, here we go. I hear gas. I have gas. I've never done nachos like this before, and I was inspired by the Adventure Addicts, and I really wanted to try this because this is something I might want to do on my trip. Chicken, pre-cooked, tomato, cilantro, sour cream, green onion, avocado, lime, and cheese. We're gonna line the pan on this side. We're just gonna layer up. We're gonna do like chips, cheese, toppings. Chips, cheese, toppings.
Roast tomatoes, boy.
We will see how this goes. Oh, this feels like it's hard in the center.
Oh yeah, it is hard. Green onion, cilantro. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, the nachos turned out friggin' wicked, so I'm definitely gonna be adding that to the list for my first couple of nights camping solo. For the last like year or two, I've been kind of like thinking rooftop tent is better. Like, and it is nice to get up off the ground. And maybe it's also the tent that I have. You know, it feels a little bit safer, but there's like some downsides I think to it as well, with mostly like space and comfort in that way. It's hot, so we're gonna turn this fan on. Get that airflow going. Good night. In anticipation for some discomforts, I added a couple of extra things to my rig. First of all, this water port. We're gonna be visiting a lot of beaches, and I'm thinking sandy feet and tents don't really go great together. So this will give us an opportunity to rinse dirty feet before getting into the tent at night. This is not drinkable water, it's just specifically for comfort. It was hot. And I have these instant coffees that dissolve in cold water. So I actually mixed up a little bit of an iced coffee without the ice, and that worked out really well. So I'm definitely gonna be bringing a couple of packs of that along with me. So that was our shakedown trip. I think I'm ready. I think I like have everything dialed in. I'm ready to go. A couple of things I took away that I'm gonna tweak now when I get home, and 1 week until departure. This trip originally was supposed to happen last fall. A bunch of things came late for our build, and then there was a really bad storm that was happening, and then we ended up doing New England, and we should have just done New York State. I don't know what I was thinking that I could do a trip like this in 1 week. That's kind of one of the reasons why I switched it to a month-long trip. So that trip kind of turned into a shakedown trip for this, and I kind of realized that driving for more than 8 hours a day is way too much. You don't get to see anything. If I want to shoot photos, less time driving, more time at camp, more time going on hikes and exploring. I really wanted to let my schedule breathe so I could have time to enjoy stuff. And so that's why I decided to go for a full month, because I can, because my job as a full-time YouTuber allows me the freedom to be able to do this. One of my goals with this trip specifically is obviously to get myself outside my comfort zone, see if I could do this by myself and try to manage those fears and anxiety that I have when it comes to like being by myself. But also, I really want to mend my relationship with photography. And I think that means for me, pressure-free shooting, not forcing myself to go take pictures because I have to for Instagram, but more so just taking the photos that I want to take as they kind of pop up. Recently, I've purchased the A7C II with this 50mm 2.5 lens as a really small setup. And so that is going to be my main photo camera that I'm going to be using on this trip. And I'm really hoping that its size and compactness and lightness is going to help me get out and shoot photos more. So that's kind of my goal for the trip, is to mend that relationship with photography. Hopefully come away with a nice collection of images that kind of represent what we've experienced without putting too much pressure on myself to produce a bunch of photos. So that is how I became obsessed with overlanding, how I got into the outdoors and camping, and some of my plans for my month-long trip, and as well as some of the goals that I have for myself during this journey. I have expectations. I'm trying to manage them because I know the trip is going to be significantly different and probably more difficult than I'm thinking about. And when I really think about it, I start to kind of freak out because it's a lot of driving and a lot of alone time, and I'm a little bit nervous about that. The real challenge I think for me is going to be actually making it through the night and getting enough sleep, solo camping as a female alone in a tent for the next 4 nights straight. I'm terrified. This is a whole new experience. Let's pack up and get going. All the really important things were all complete. The truck was built, I had an oil change and maintenance done, all the campsites were booked, route was planned, and now it was just time to do the damn thing. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.